Hey guys, Ezra here again today with another motorcycle video. I've been doing a lot of these lately because it's currently my favorite hobby right now. So computers are taking a break. So what we're going to go over today right now is say you're interested in buying a motorcycle off Craigslist or a used bike from somebody and you're wondering what to look for when you go ahead and take a look at it. And there are a few things that you should get out of the way first. So if you haven't seen the bike in person yet, you should pretty much call the seller and ask a few questions. Namely, some of the things I ask are, get the VIN number. You can run the VIN through some sites like AutoCheck. They do motorcycle VINs. And just see if anything pops up. If something pops up and it's like an accident, then you know that's a potential red flag for you. However, there is a caveat with AutoCheck is that not everything is reported to AutoCheck, so don't rely on it 100%. And if something doesn't show up on AutoCheck, it doesn't mean it has never been crashed or been in an accident. But on the flip side, if something shows up on AutoCheck or something similar, there's a good chance that it was pretty major, that it had to be logged by the insurance company. All right, so that's one thing I would ask is the VIN number, so you can check it. If nothing comes up, then proceed to ask a few more other questions. If something comes up that you don't really like about the bike through the AutoCheck, then you can move on. It's not a big deal. There's plenty of bikes out there. So another thing I would ask for is, has it been down? And many sellers will tell you it's probably been tipped over, or they might not even be honest about it, but it's something worth asking. You can gauge the person's, trustworthiness and honesty through that, and whether or not they're a trustworthy seller. If you end up seeing the bike and they lied about it, then that's probably not a bike worth getting. So has it been down? It's a good test of the seller, see if they're honest. And another question I would ask is, when was it last serviced? And then again, it's also relying on the truthfulness of the owner and whether or not he has paperwork for it. So these are some of the baseline questions I would ask. These questions are not really meant to, get a full assessment of the bike, obviously, because you haven't seen it yet. But it's just a way to, not waste your time with a bike that's not worth it. So if any red flags pop up just from calling the person, then I would just walk away. There's no need to spring on the first bike that you're hung on. There's plenty of bikes out there that are probably just as good. Once you get a feel for the seller and the bike, the condition of the bike through the phone, if you still want to proceed with setting up a meeting, go ahead and organize a meetup with the seller. I would request that the seller not start the bike beforehand and leave the engine cold so you can see it when it starts up. So say you come up, you meet the seller, and now you see the bike. First thing I would do, first step, is to give a quick visual overlook of the bike. There's some things that you can look out for if it's been dropped. If the seller claimed that it's never been dropped, there's a few things telltale signs to look out for. Mainly, most of it's going to be in the front end because that has obviously the most stuff protruding out of it. One thing you want to look out for when inspecting a bike, a visual inspection, is for drops, is you want to look at the bar ends. Are the bar ends smooth and there's no gouges in it, then that looks good. If there's no scrapes on the end of the lever, that's a good sign. Mirror, if the signals have no scuffs, the mirrors have no scuffs, there's no scuffing on the side right here. Generally, full fairing bikes, they get scuffs along, kind of like around this upper area where the handlebar just folds in a fall, and this contacts the ground. I would also look at the pegs. If the pegs have scrapes on them, the tail, this area, there's scrapes, if the tail lights are broken or missing. Some easy things to tell. I mean, both sides. You want to check the other side as well. Mirror, lever end, bar end. signals. If they're like falling apart, that probably means it's been laid over. Again, the pegs, exhaust. Look at the exhaust in the corners, the farthest corner out. If it's scraped up. I mean, these are some of the small things you can look for if it's been in an accident. Look at the frame. If there's any dents in the frame, just don't bother with it. There's plenty of other bikes out there with no frame damage. So look at it, visually inspect it. If it looks straight, yeah. I mean, these are the things that you want to go over if you want to look for fall damage. But okay, now moving on. There's some other things you can look out for. So you sit on the bike and straighten it up. Sight down the forks. Is the wheel straight in line? Are the handlebars symmetrical? Or is one like tilted downwards or bent lower? Or is this like angled down or bent up? If it's symmetrical, that's a good sign. And the forks aren't bent or twisted in any way. All right, and this is all before you even start the bike. This is the visual inspection. Another thing I would look out for is the next thing is, fluid condition. Has the seller been maintaining the fluid? Coolant's a little hard to tell because it's green. But on the SV650, you can find the fuel coolant level here on the left. There's a tank right there. You can see if it's in between the low or full line. You might need to check it with the bike standing up a little bit, so you can try pushing the bike upright, see the level. And I can see that I changed the oil myself at least. And that oil, or the coolant, isn't the right level. Another thing I want to check out is the brake fluid reservoir. If it's dark in here, if it's black, that means the guy hasn't done anything to it. But if it's an amber color, it needs replacement. It should be like a light yellow, like a very light yellow. If it's tan, it looks like sweet tea, then it needs replacement. But that's not necessarily a deal breaker. As long as it's not black. If it's black, then it's been way too long. It's probably never been replaced. All right, and then final check for fluids, vital fluids. I would say is the oil level. And most bikes have sight glass. My Ninja had a sight glass, and this SV650 has a sight glass. So what you do is you pull the bike up. Obviously, you want to be careful because you don't want to drop the bike, especially if you don't own it yet. And you want to check the level. If the person maintained the bike as well as they said they have, you'll see it line up with the full, in between the low and the full line when you stand the bike up. And you can kind of eyeball the condition of the fluid in there, but if the person hasn't changed it, you won't be able to really tell. Unless it's like totally sludged up. But even like brake fluid that has like 2,000 miles on it will look pretty dark, depending on how he rides. But this, I would say, is the most important fluid level to check. Is the fluid level within the high and low marks of the bike. If it's below the low mark, I would definitely tread lightly on the bike, because that could indicate the owner has never even looked at the level. It's pretty easy to check, as you can see. And the owner, it says a lot about the owner and how the bike was neglected. So yeah, it's pretty easy. Just pull it. Obviously, don't pull it too far, but the level looks okay here. Mechanical visual inspection. After the fluid visual inspection is the brake pad wear. This one seems to have a decent amount of brake pad left on the rear. And you want to check the date code on the tires. This says 47 week of 2012, you can see there's a 4-digit code on pretty much most tires. The first two indicate the week of the year, and the last two indicate the year. So that one said 4712, so that's the 47th week of 2012. So it's kind of a little bit on the old side, but 5 years is pretty much the max you want to do for any kind of aggressive riding. So I'm looking at this side. This one says 3713, so that's the 37th week of 2013. It's a decently fresh tire. You should be able to feel comfortable on it. But yeah, tire condition is definitely one of the biggest things I would look out for on a used bike, because it's another $200 or so at least to get those replaced. You can factor that into the price when negotiating with the bike. Typically a bike with low miles that's, you know, several years old, more than 5 years old, probably still has the original tires on unless the owner knew what he was doing. But yeah, that's something I do almost out of habit now. I mean, it's my second bike. I threw new tires on them immediately. The first bike was a 2009 with the original tires. And the first thing I did was take it to a shop for new tires. I took it for a shop for new tires as well, because this was probably the original tires from back in 07. This has 7,700 miles on it. Tires look pretty old, and the previous owner didn't really say he didn't really do anything to it. So I went to get the tires changed. But yeah, mechanical check, tire check, feel comfortable riding the tires. Front brake check the pads. This one has a double-sided 2 calipers. Life looks good on that one. There's still meat on that one too. So, all right, now you're ready for a test ride. Okay, make sure you have your gear, especially if you're a new rider. All right, so straddle the bike and stand on it. Kick the kickstand up. All right, now you want to make sure ensure that the brakes work, and ensure that the rear brake works as well. Ensure the clutch works and the gear shifter works. All right, shift back in neutral. All right, so now you're ready to test ride it. So assuming you're at the seller's house or close to his house, I would take it out on the street and make sure you shift through all gears and listen for any strange noises. So obviously neutral lights on, checking neutral, ignition. All right, so what you want to do now is actually listen to the bike. You don't hear any knocking or rattling noises. You're gonna let it warm up a little bit, but because I rode it here, we can do the next thing is rev it up a little bit. And this whole time you're listening for knocking or rattling noises with the bike. Alright, so now that you're ready to test ride it, go ahead and find like a street. Alright, so I'm in the top gear. I don't hear anything strange about this bike. So, you know, just take it take it gently, but still accelerate fast enough to a speed where you can get through all the gears. Yep. Listen for any grinding noises. Does the gearbox shit smoothly? Do the brakes feel alright? Pretty much check any functional thing. Something I forgot to go over was checking all the signals, the gauges, make sure they all work, the lights, all the buttons and the horn, they work. Some extra goodies you want to look out for with the bike. Does it have the user's manual or the owner's manual? If it has the owner's manual and it has like all the included goodies like the toolkit, it's a good sign. The owner was meticulous about keeping those available. This particular bike didn't come with those, so that was kind of a bummer, but it's not too big of a deal.